Hello, hello. I'm so glad this worked today because a couple days ago when I did one of the ones for week 1, it was checking connection and it was no good. So good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm just in a really good mood this morning. Hello. So I'm hoping you guys are having a good day too. And don't worry, everyone always asks me this. I will save it to my profile. If you are not a morning person, of course, why am I telling you guys here this? You guys are actually here and watching. So, hello, good morning, good morning. I hope you guys have a nice day planned ahead of you. I am doing just fine. Thank you for asking. I'm actually having a really awesome morning. I have a really fun day planned. So I get to talk with you guys today. We get to talk all about week 2, answer questions. Why am I in a good mood? I don't know. I'll tell you actually why. I have I was about to say lengthy, but it's not really lengthy. It's a very important to me morning process that just gets me good in alignment, gets me good, my mind right for the day. These are all tools and mechanisms that I did not have necessarily available to me in the house, which is why I'm probably in a much better mood than you've probably seen me. But no, not all of them. I did some self-hypnosis, but it's hard. I will say, if you know anything about hypnosis or hypnotherapy, if you've heard me talk about it before, all hypnosis, all trance is a deep, deep state of relaxation. That's why I like to do all my sessions virtual, because I find that my clients like to cuddle up in their own blankets and the comforts of their own bed and be able to have their sessions that way, as opposed to coming into my office or anything like that. Think about it this way, though. The Big Brother house. Is it easy to relax in such a house? Is this an easy place to be relaxed? No, not necessarily. So that was why it was always very difficult to do self-hypnosis there. But at home, I like to listen to uplifting, motivating YouTube videos. I do hypnosis in the morning myself. I always do a session in the morning for myself, some self-hypnosis. I'm trying to think what else I do. Oh, I always have like a go-to. I know this is so dorky, but this is my life and I'm sharing it with you guys. I always each week I pick a motivational quote or something that I read in a book or something that really resonated with me. And I kind of use that to like guide whenever I'm having like a tough time. I use that thought or, that affirmation as something to kind of guide me. And I'll share this week's with you in case you want a guiding thought. My thought this week is anything you want, make it a fun game of expectation and excitement in the waiting. So that's just my thought, something that stuck out to me this week. And I love that because whenever I start thinking about the goals that I'm working on and what I'm moving forward with, I think about, I just can't wait for this. I'm, expecting this. Is there somebody in Pam in here? I'm thinking about expectation and the excitement. So somebody asked why I was in a good mood. That's because I do all these things in the morning and I love to start the day out right. But we have lots of things to talk about today. And I will imagine that this live will be somewhat of a not as joined one because it's in the morning and because I didn't really advertise it at all. Should have done that. But I will be saving this to the profile. So we will do it today because I'm very busy today. Oh yeah, I was telling you guys that I am doing this today. And then I am going to record with the Secret Alliance podcast. That's Hannah Chada, Rachel Riley, Jason Guy, their podcast this afternoon. So I'm super excited about that. So if you want even more Big Brother insights, I should be on their show very soon. So we're recording that this afternoon. And then this evening, I actually get to do something fun. I feel like all I've been doing since I came home from Big Brother has been just trying to reacclimate to normal life and working and all that. I love my job. I love what I do. So it's all fun, but I'm actually going out tonight with a good friend of mine. and we're going to get Mexican food, and it's going to be really fun. I haven't really gotten to catch up with my friends too much since I've been back, which I'm sorry if you're my friend in the real world. I am very sorry. I have been MIA. I'm just like, it's just so weird. It's just so hard to get back used to normal life. I'm still like, ooh, trees. It's just kind of crazy. So, yes, let's talk about some stuff. So I have a few things. Oh, darn it. I was going to get that link and I was going to put it here. Oh, but if I mess this up, I was going to copy and paste this very long eBay link for you guys. But I forgot before I started this, and I'm afraid it's going to turn it off if I go and get it. But let me back up. There's an auction going on right now, and I think there's, I don't know how many more days there are left. Probably 4 or 5 days, not a week. But if you go to my profile, actually, you know what? My link and profile link is much easier to remember. I have that one memorized and it's not as long. So I knew that's why I did that. I'm going to put the link, my link tree. Sorry, I'm typing right now. tr.ee/, Brittany Hoops. So I'm commenting this link, and you can go to this link, and there's actually lots of fun stuff there. And then I will pin the comment, and hopefully this works. So that is the link. Excuse me. That is the link, and I hope I did it right. Link.tree. Yeah, it should be right. So that is my link in bio link. So it's the same exact link that you would go to if you went to my Instagram profile and saw my link in my bio. And it has lots of other little links in it. One of which is an eBay auction that is going on right now for my backstage pass memorabilia. Because even though it is a very lucky, they are very lucky items, considering you all saved me. If that would have been the twist, I would have stayed in the house. They kind of make my stomach flip-flop whenever I look at them. So I thought, you know what? How can we transmute this energy here? How can we take these things that I don't necessarily want around my house to help other people? Oh, is it not an actual link? Can you not actually press it? That stinks. I wonder why. Well, just go to the link in my bio or just type that in because it's not too hard. But you'll see a link there that takes you to where I'm auctioning off my backstage pass shirt, and where I'm auctioning off together as a set, the backstage pass shirt, the worn backstage pass shirt, and then the backstage pass, the actual thing that good old Pooch put around my neck when he picked me as one of the backstage pass girls. So, yeah, I'm not too good with these Instagram lives, but you guys just type it in. It takes 2 seconds. So there's a link there, or you could just visit my profile and see it there. But yeah, the auction's going on right now, and it's pretty crazy. Oh yeah, we have 5 days left. 5.5 days left, about. It goes until Monday. And so, you guys are amazing. This all goes to charity. It all goes to the Hearts of Reality is hosting the auction. It all goes to Give Kids the World. And you guys know that kiddos hold a special place in my heart, especially since Steven and I are trying to start our family. That I thought, you know what? Let's take this quite unfortunate event of backstage that happened early on in the game, and let's transmute it for good. So that's what we're doing. So if you are interested in owning a piece of BB24 history, you can absolutely do that. And you can find that link in my bio to that eBay. And there's 5.5 days left. So lots of fun stuff there. Oh, also speaking of Hearts of Reality, I will be at the Hearts of Reality event in December in Florida. So I'm so excited about that. I know quite a few BB24 people are going to be there. I think Jasmine's going to be there. I think Michael's expressed interest. Not sure. I think Joseph might be there too. yeah, lots of people from BB24. It's going to be a nice little reunion. I know tons of BB vets will be there. Lots of reality stars. I'm going to be fangirling because I look at everybody who's going to be attending and I'm like, are you kidding me? This is pretty cool. I'll get to meet all these people from these shows that I love. So, yeah, so we will be there and we'll be having fun. And I'm hoping that I get to meet you guys and that you guys will be there as well. That's December, I think it's 8th through 10th. So yeah. I'm just very, very excited for that. That'll be a nice little trip. So what's something else? I wrote some notes. I always have so many notes. Oh, okay. Awesome thing that is coming very, very soon, probably within the next week. I'm still figuring out what are the details of it. But Instagram has been so kind to open up their subscription, functionality to my account, which means I will be launching a group hypnosis subscription. So many of you guys, after my last group hypnosis session that I did on Instagram Live, so many of you guys asked, like, can we get more of these? Is there a subscription? How can I do more of these? If you were a live feeder and you ever tuned in to any time that I led group hypnosis in the house, I know so many of you guys participated in group hypnosis in the house, which was so cool. I don't know why I didn't think that that would be a thing, but I will be launching group hypnosis subscription, monthly subscription here on Instagram. So I'm still figuring out what the particulars of that looks like, but it will be something like you pay X amount of dollars per month and I'll do a weekly, like a Wellness Wednesday, or maybe I'll switch up the days and the times so people can join live at different times, different days. But I'll do a group hypnosis session on a topic each week. I'll also have other stories that are, exclusive to subscribers. If you're a subscriber, you'll get a little badge next to you. So whenever you join these general lives or, comment on my stuff, I'll see that you're a subscriber and that you're there and I'll be able to respond to you quickly. I think there's even a group chat functionality so we can do like some group coaching. What's going to be cool about, I think, in my humble opinion, what I think is going to be cool about this subscription compared to a lot of other subscriptions that I see on Instagram is that it's going to have utility. It's going to have value. It's going to be primarily a group hypnosis subscription, which means that you'll have access to all the subscriber only group hypnosis sessions, just like I did last week. I have that saved on my profile, which is a free one for everybody. These will now be for subscribers. And so what's cool about that is, say we do a group hypnosis on motivation or on stress relief. You're going to have access to that. You're going to be able to go back to that and listen to that whenever you want because you're a subscriber. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm a member of several different subscription based like hypnosis apps and things like that. This is going to be much less cost and kind of achieve the same thing, which I'm very excited about that. So I'm still kind of figuring out what the particulars are. I'll definitely be posting here on Instagram stories and everything saying what that is. But I know so many people have asked me about this, so I'm very happy to be able to offer it now, which is great. Of course, there's always still the one-on-one hypnotherapy sessions that I do too. You guys, it has been so amazing to get back into work and to be doing these hypnotherapy sessions. I do them all virtually via Zoom, so you don't have to listen or you don't have to live here in Austin to participate. It is just, I don't know why it still amazes me. I should be used to it by now. I see so many different clients and I see so many different things. But what's just really cool is for example, I had several sessions yesterday. And you can just see childhood trauma just lift off of people in real time. I wish I could describe it. I wish I could do I don't know. What's tough is I would never want to put anybody on the spot. I would love to be able to conduct a one-on-one session, kind of like what you guys saw on Big Brother, right? When I was doing a session with Alyssa, although they condensed, what is a 40-minute session down to, 2 minutes. But I wish I could really show you what it's like in real time. Because it's just pretty astounding. And it's very different than I would say, and I won't get into all the differences because we're going to talk about week 2 here in just a moment, but it's very different than group hypnosis. Because group hypnosis, I can't talk with you, I can't see you. It's kind of just, me broadcasting out. And that's still very beneficial, still very helpful for people. But if you're really looking to achieve results much quicker, much deeper, you're going to want something that's a little bit more interactive. And that's what the one-on-one hypnotherapy sessions are. They're interactive. We talk. I always say it's like I'm driving a safari Jeep, right? You tell me what you're seeing. You report back to me. I drive closer to something if it's interesting. We drive further away from something if it's scary or uncomfortable or intimidating. There's a lot more. It's a lot more customized. And therefore you see results much more quickly. And one thing, kind of the pros and cons of both things, I'll be having the subscription, but the subscription, I have to keep the sessions purposely vague because they have to apply to as many people as possible. That's something too, that if you notice like, oh gosh, I really want this topic or I really want this, I'll have polls. I'll do polls that we decide what's going to be the topic for this week for the subscription. I want to try to help as many people as possible and focus on the topics that are going to help the most people. But there's nothing like one-on-one hypnotherapy, which is to make sure everything is completely customized to you, your unique situation, your unique background, what you've experienced, so that it's just that much more effective and in a shorter amount of time. So both those things exist. I will be posting about both those things soon, but today we are talking about Big Brother and we are talking about week 2. So if you missed my week 1 live that I did 2 days ago, I talked all about week 1 backstage, what it was like, the chaos of week 1. But now we're on to week 2, which if you don't remember week 2, which I do not anticipate that anyone would other than people in the house, this was Jasmine's HOH that she won after she hurt her foot. And this was the week that Pooch was evicted. So I am going to just kind of go through now to recap. I've watched all the episodes now. These are my notes that I took while watching the episodes of just things that I thought were interesting, stories that I remembered, things that maybe I wasn't aware of that I wanted to talk about, like just interesting things to kind of see. Ooh, there's 111. Oh, I'm always looking for live numbers. Okay, or just thoughts that kind of came up randomly as I was watching. Here's kind of a hot take. I don't think it should be a hot take, but God forbid, some people think it is. I think it's so funny because especially early on in the game, there's so much talk about like, oh, who's a strong female competitor? Like, and look at somebody like Amira. She got second in so many comps and she's so smart. Like you begin to see that in this week where people are like, ooh, gosh, she's really good, which explains kind of, what ends up happening week 3. But there's so much talk about who's strong competitor. We're all kind of filling each other out, right? It's the second week. We're trying to see who might be a threat. Just FYI, my strategy was to try to appear as little threatening as possible. Just like I wanted to just blend into the background. I just didn't want anybody to be on anybody's radar. That definitely was my strategy coming into the house. Definitely was hard with the week 1 and having, the backstage shirt on. But, especially once I survived, week 1 and I knew I could just play my game as normal. I just wanted to be as non-threatening as possible. And I'm just going to say something, and this is my truth. So that's why I'm saying it. I do think as a woman playing this game, you just have to go into the house with just a different strategy than if you were a man. There are just certain things that you say that appear more threatening. There's certain things that you would do that would appear more threatening. And it's funny because, I don't want to speak for Amira, but we've talked about this. I've talked about this with Amira because she's so smart and she was so good at those initial comps. She didn't win any of them, but she came second like multiple times and boom, her threat level just went way up. And especially how some things have played out later in the seasons, we saw, okay, thank you. I'm glad that you guys are kind of agreeing here. You noticed this. we saw that the moment you just give a smidge of that you might be good at this game, as a woman especially, that it's just very difficult to overcome that. And I will not even kid you, and this is the sad reality of things, but I literally read this book. Here's what I Googled before I went into the house, because I've seen this in the workplace. I've seen this just throughout life, that this dynamic happens. And I kind of anticipated that this would happen in the Big Brother house as well. I literally Googled how to be less threatening as a woman. And the first result came up at the time was this satirical book that somebody wrote that was like, instead of saying this in the workplace, say this. And it was supposed to be a joke book, but I kid you not, this is how bad it is. I kid you not. And I sent this link to Amira, and she was cracking up. She was like, oh, I should have read this book too before coming to the house. I took some notes on that, and maybe in another live, I'll share what those notes are. But I literally was like, I need to diminish my threat level as much as possible. And it's so funny because I see this even in the episodes where they're talking about somebody saying, oh, she's a strong female competitor, this and that, because that's such a scary thing to be a strong female. And we especially see a lot of this happen week 2 when Jasmine is HOH. I will admit, all the girls very much kind of hung out in the HOH room and let the power sort of get to them, which I always called that the bed geography, because it felt like all the girls that were in girls were just hanging out on this bed all the time. And I always felt like I could hang out in the bed. I could come up and I could sit on the bed, but I was not in the middle of the pile. I was always on the edge. And that always told me something, that it never felt like it was comfortable enough to really just be in the center of everything. I kind of sat like, just very properly on the edge of the bed. I was there. I was in the room, but I was not in the mix of things. I was not the one helping make decisions, all those things. And that's what kind of told me initially, like, I'm in girls. People are telling me that they have my back, but I'm also not being consulted about major decisions. I'm not like in the throes of like the hangouts, things like that. And that's what really began to tell me that like, I just don't think I am a part of girls. I think I'm being told I'm a part of girls, but I don't think I'm truly a part of it. And anyways, this is a big, long way of saying that it's funny to see people talk about who are the strong female competitors. One, because I did not want to be viewed as that. That was not now, I'm not like, did I throw any competitions? No, I tried as hard as I could. I mean, socially. I mean, the way that I handle myself in the house, what I think ultimately is really interesting is if you look at the facts of this season when it's all said and done, technically I won the most comps of any female this season. So if we're going to talk about who's the strongest female competitor, I won I never won HOH. I won 2 vetoes myself, and then I won 2 vetoes with Michael as part of the Festy Bestie twist. Now OTEV, I helped Michael win that one by putting some of the sauces near the edge so he can find them in later rounds. So there was some help there, but I slid open my knee, got 6 stitches. That one I definitely mentally do not count. But Woodstack, that definitely was a team effort. And it's funny because I think earlier on I would say to the house guests, because I'm trying to not seem like a threat, I'm trying to not seem like a strong female in this house, because that puts a target on your back. I definitely would try to discount my role in that and be like, oh, but Michael told me where things are. Oh, I didn't do this. And, really as a tactic to just try to, I wanted anytime I won anything, I wanted it to feel like a fluke. I wanted it to feel like a fluke for everybody else in the house, because, you don't want to seem strong. You want to seem like, oh, Brittany, we can get her later. Or, oh, she didn't really win that. Where I did mess up, if I were to ever play again, what I'd do, you'd want it to seem like a fluke for the majority of the season. But once jury starts and once people start going to jury, you don't want them to still see it like a fluke. Because I think I almost did such a good job of making people feel like I'm not a threat, that by time, if I would have gotten to final 3 or the end, I would have had to really rely on Michael convincing the rest of the house, because really only Michael knew all the things I was kind of throwing, all the things I would say, all the Chinese checkers games I would purposely mess up on, all the things that I would do to try to seem like less of a threat. He was the really one that I'd shared with and trusted enough to tell those things to. That looking back on it, I think I would ease up on that and I would really step up in a very public way, so that whoever's going into jury would know that these things were deliberate. I just got in such a habit of kind of hiding it and trying to diminish what that is and make it seem like a fluke, that it almost, I think it would have been very difficult to convince jury otherwise. So anyways, I think what's interesting too, okay, here's my next note, is that it's just funny to watch the episodes and just the fact that they're not showing Michael and I's friendship very much in those early episodes. I talked about this last live, which is just funny because I watched that and that's just so much of my game, is that, we paired up day 2. And it's funny that they're focusing in terms of me, they're focusing on me being in Girls. And I know that's because Girls is the main alliance that Jasmine was in at the time, and she won HOH. And so that's like the storyline that they're showing as of week 2. But it's just so funny because Girls to me just was like, oh, I was in this room at this time and okay, I'm a part of this thing, but I don't really feel like the other people in this thing really like me. And so I think I'm in this alliance, but I'm not really sure. And it's just really funny that, of course I look at my game through the lens of me watching these episodes. They're not showing what actually mattered to me, which was my alliance with Michael. But they're showing me as part of Girls. And I'm thinking, did anyone think Girls was really like a huge thing? Because I'm looking at everybody else in Girls and they all had other alliances. And so it just didn't really feel, it's just funny that that's the story that they tell when it's just like, this wasn't really a huge thing. Especially cause, and rightfully so, and I've talked to Amir about this, like it's, when I was backstage, my back was up against the wall. I had to think of some sort of way to differentiate myself from Paloma and Alyssa so that if Pooch or if Daniel had anything to do with who got to stay that week, that they would pick me. Obviously that information that I shared, which was accurate, true information, that Amira was throwing around Pooch's name as wanting to target Pooch, which we obviously see in this week is exactly what happened. I told Pooch that. Well, Pooch doesn't have a strategic bone in his body. Sorry, Pooch. He, rather than taking in information that's very valuable to him to know who he could trust and keeping it to himself and using that and bringing it back to the Oasis or doing whatever he needs to do, what does he do instead? He runs and blabs to Amira and says, Brittany saying this, blah, 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 blah. And so now Amira knows that I told him something that was very accurate. And she confronts me and says, I only told Girls that I was targeting Pooch. Why? One of you guys said it. And obviously he's saying that it's me. I deny it vehemently. I know I'm in trouble. It's where I get my messy queen name from, at least the beginning. And so obviously at this point in time, come week 2, Amira is not too happy with me. She told me some information. I went and told Pooch. She's not trusting me. And so she's saying that she wants to target me. I hear this information from Joseph. Me and Joseph are becoming much closer at this time. But it's just, it's interesting to know that in the episodes, they're showing me as part of Girls, which is Amira. That actually, I feel like Amira is targeting me the most, and so I don't feel so closely aligned with Girls, but actually, Michael was kind of my day 2 bestie, even before Festy Besties became a thing. So, so that was kind of that. Here's what's kind of interesting though, and you know what, I'm going to have a special guest on my Instagram lives on Sunday, and I'm sure you guys could probably guess who that might be. It is my festy bestie Michael, so I will be posting more about that. We'll be doing a live together, which will be really fun. So maybe we can talk about this. Yeah. So what's interesting to watch the episodes is that come week 2, I didn't actually know that my name was being thrown around by Pooch. That I found out on the episodes. That he was suggesting to Jasmine that him and me go up on the block, and that he thought he'd win Veto and could take himself down, and then Taylor would be put up. And you know, it's just kind of funny to hear that. And then it's also kind of interesting to see some of those episodes where Michael was aware of this information. Because Michael did not tell me this. I did not know that my name was being thrown around week 2. And so, you know, it's just kind of funny as I go through. And I think this will be something that we can talk about on Sunday. Because Michael and I mean, we have literally text or talked to each other every single day since the Big Brother house. I don't think a day has gone by. We are very good friends. I know that this is game. Lord knows that there are other things that Michael did, namely the double eviction, that, you know, weren't the best for my game. But it is funny to just see somebody who, you know, I was so closely aligned with, who had some information that could have really helped me to know if I was in trouble, and just to see that he did not choose to tell me that, especially when I look back at my game and I think, oh my God, any moment he was in trouble, like I literally would always go back and tell him, because that's what you do when you work with somebody. You make sure they're good and you're good, and until if and when that moment comes where you feel like it doesn't benefit you any longer, you know, you exchange information when you're you know, to make sure that your allies stay in the game. So yeah, just kind of interesting to not hear, and you know, and what would have been nice, and of course you can say coulda, shoulda, woulda, but what would have been nice is even if he was like, Brittany, Pooch is throwing around your name, just want you to know, don't tell a soul. Don't keep it to yourself, lay low. If he would have just even said something like that, I'd have been like, okay, because just information and knowing who you should be concerned with is just really important. Because like I said, didn't even really know that Pooch was throwing around my name. And thank God it worked out like it did. And what's so crazy, and I feel like the episodes don't do a very good job of this, but so the whole storyline of this episode, right, is that Pooch is really pushing for me and him to go up on the block. But ultimately, what does Jasmine do? Jasmine puts Taylor and Pooch on the block. And so, you know what? You said, I think he thought he would freak out, that I would freak out now. Sorry, you're incorrect. At that point in time, this is week 2, guys. You have to remember, this is week 2. Both of our strategies was very much to keep information. And if anything, it was a little difficult to, we might have kept information from other people even too much. I know that was something that I've talked with Jasmine about, that she was like, one of the red flags with me and Michael to her was that the fact that we weren't really offering up much of anything. Which again, I experienced that also as well. But at this point in time, it's not really, this is week 2. Now, week 11, week 8, week 7, once we get to know each other more, once we know how we are in the game, if there was any concerns about that, that's fine. But, you know, it's, interesting to see. Anyways, let me go. Just needed to clear that up. Sorry. It's just funny for me. You got to remember kind of the mindset that I'm in. And this is why I'm having these Instagram lives. That no one but me gets to be in my head. And so that's why I want to share with what is in my head and what I've experienced. And as somebody who was in the house, being able to share that. But anyways, I'm very impressed that Jasmine did not put me up, because that was the whole big push, right? And I knew she didn't trust me after the whole Amira thing. And with all the Pooch stuff, but that was kind of a question that I feel like they don't really answer in the episode. They're like, okay, well, now it's Taylor and Pooch. And I'm like, oh man, I dodged a bullet there. And so of course I'm thinking through this strategically and what makes sense. It doesn't make sense for Jasmine at this point in time to target me. I'm not doing anything directly to her. I'm not any threat directly to her. I know I've also talked to Alyssa, and Alyssa said that she didn't feel like that made sense. You know, I'm mad at Pooch and Pooch is mad at me for the whole backstage thing. But, Jasmine's not my target and I'm not Jasmine's target. So I get why it doesn't make sense at the end of the day. And it's funny because I actually FaceTimed with Jasmine yesterday. I will say this, I'm not aware, nor do I try to seek out things that people might have said negatively about me or, I know there was a lot of bullying and a lot of things that happened in the house, primarily with Taylor, but with other people included, myself included. I haven't tried to seek out those clips, and please don't send them to me. I don't need to watch that. I don't need to know. Some people have apologized to me, Jasmine being one of them. And it's just, I really want to give where credit's due. I told myself I'm never going to hold grudges. I just, we're all humans now that we're outside of this house. We're not playing a game anymore. It's like the kind of person you want to be. And I will tell you, Jasmine and I have been texting. We FaceTimed for like over an hour yesterday. It was so nice. It's so funny because we always recognized that we had a lot in common personally. It's just our games did not align, and we weren't very good roommates together, and we weren't very good at playing the game together. But we share a lot in common personally. She's a business owner, so am I. She's super smart. And anyways, I figured you guys deserve to know that it's nice to know that people can kind of set things aside and apologize. I apologize to her for many things I said. I know it was kind of a common pastime for the leftovers to kind of like express their frustrations about Jasmine. And I felt really bad about that. At one point in time, it got to be kind of too much. And I think I told Monty and Turner that I'm like, you know what? I'm just kind of done joking about Jasmine. It just started to feel similarly to how I felt like I was being treated at the beginning of the show. And so I just really wanted you guys to know that I think it's really admirable when people own up to what they did, also acknowledge that we're in an impossible situation, this game that's being, with cameras 24/7. Not that is any sort of excuse for any sort of behavior, not at all, but to be able to apologize and move forward from it. And I think my relationship with Jasmine is a perfect example of that, where it's like, let bygones be bygones. And we quite literally said, let's hit the reset button and see what kind of friendship is here. And it's really nice to be able to be like, oh my God, like when I go to Atlanta, I want to hang out with her. I want to talk with her. And that's fun. So yeah. Anyways, I think that also kind of makes sense why just like, and I asked Jasmine this, yesterday when I was talking to her, when I was FaceTiming her, and she's like, yeah, just kind of in my mind was like, okay, Pooch, you want to target Brittany. Brittany is not necessarily my target. We can take care of her later. I was like, okay, thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, just kind of funny to see that. Let's see here. I think I kind of already talked about this. Yeah, I think, excuse me, some of these notes, I'm reading them because some of them are just kind of, like a journal I want to keep. I don't know if I necessarily want to mention. It's very therapeutic to just kind of write, right? When you're watching these episodes. It's just kind of funny. I think I've already kind of touched upon this though, I think that's a choice, right? Anybody in the house, not just Michael, not just me. It is a choice to be able to decide what information you want to tell which person. And I definitely have some regrets, obviously, of telling too much information to some people. I definitely have some regrets, although I don't know if I actually have regrets about this. I definitely played with a team mentality with Michael and I, probably longer than a good player should. If that makes sense. And I know I'm kind of jumping around weeks, and I know that because once he left during the double eviction and those, 2 weeks that I stayed in the house afterwards were just very refreshing. And I know you guys found them very entertaining too. And it was just very refreshing to be able to be like, all right, my number one is out of the house. He betrayed me. If he can betray me, then anybody can betray me. Let's blow some shit up, That was my mentality in those last 2 weeks. Because I think I spent too much. I was in a great position. I was fine. I knew I was fine. I spent too much time trying to figure out for Michael what position he was in. And then that jeopardized my game. And so, I look back and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there were some conversations I had with Monty, I had with Turner that I didn't need to have. I didn't need to have those conversations. I was okay at that point in time, but I had those conversations so that we could learn the truth of where Michael stood with them. And I didn't, if you're looking at, this is an individual game, you can't split the check. I didn't need to have done that. I would have had Michael's protection in other ways, and he would have had my protection in other ways, than that. So, it's kind of funny. I think there's sometimes, and I noticed this as I personally analyze my game. I personally analyze Michael's game or any other house guest game from my perspective. And I often find that Michael and I's games are very much the opposite, which is why I think they work so well together for the majority of the time. But in my perspective, I feel like perhaps I shouldn't have told him as much as I told him. And from his perspective, I think he should have told me more. And it's just like, oh man, don't you wish we could have just turned those dials a little bit? Okay, let's crank down Brittany a little bit. Let's turn up Michael a little bit. I think we would have gotten a final two. I really do feel that way. It's just some finessing that needed to happen there, But I think what's really interesting is, I get so much flack, and you know what? I don't really care what people think, but so many people are like, oh my God, Brittany, you hid behind Michael, this and that. Guys, again, it goes to that, what I was saying earlier about being perceived as a strong female competitor. It does not benefit you in this game. Not to mention that Michael and I started working together before he ever played a single competition. So, I think that that's something. But I think you also have to recognize your own strengths. I knew going into the house that I'd play a psychological game, a mental game, a social game. Those were going to be my strengths. I don't have the blinders on here, okay? If I came in and I'm like, I'm gonna be a physical comp beast, you guys, I'd be the laughing stock of Big Brother 24, right? Physically, I knew that a lot of those early comps that are more exciting because there's more people and they tend to be more physical based comps, I knew they were not going to be my strong suits. So what do you have to do when you're competing in something that's not your strong suit? Do you crinkle up and be like, oh, do you turn over and die and say, oh, I hope I'm okay? No, you figure out strategies. You make sure you have shields around you. You make sure that you are aligned with people that is their strong suit. You want a diversity of skills with the people that you're working with. And that's one of the reasons why I think The Leftovers was so great, is that we all had very diverse skills. And so, I think it's just funny given my physicality, given my age, given the fact that I was married and not single as a woman in the house. It takes away a lot of strategies that one could use. Given my status as not being necessarily a popular girl, being kind of a quirky one. Given my gender, there are just so many strategies that are off limits in those instances. And I'm not saying this as any sort of excuse, so please do not come at me. I'm saying this to be able to say you have to take a very honest assessment of yourself and your position in this game. This is the ultimate social experiment. You have to take an honest assessment of yourself and your position within those 16 people and recognize where are you going to be strong, where might you be weak, and how can you augment yourself to fill in those gaps. That's what you need to do in the house to get far. And I would suggest that for anybody. If you recognize that you're in the game and you are kind of socially awkward, find somebody who can make some friends and have some good conversations and get people to open up. If you are super dominant comp beast, but you don't have two brain cells to rub together, you better find somebody smart who can win those mental comps at the end for you, because you're going to beast your way all the way 2/3 through the game and then you're going to lose at the end. This would be, that's why it's like, I just kind of roll my eyes. I roll my crazy eyes when I hear Brit flee, because you could say Leftovers flee, you could say Monty flee, you could say anybody that was protected by Michael. And being protected by somebody is a strategy. I'm sorry. That's how, what are you supposed to do? If you lack certain skill set, you don't curl over and die and say, I hope I last. No, you find people with the skill set that you lack and you work together. That's called Big Brother. So that's my soapbox, but this is quite literally my soapbox. So you guys are here to listen to my thoughts. Okay, so let's look at the next note that I have here, which is Oh my gosh, Terrence in his mermaid outfit. The nip slip that really got me. I just say nip slip, LOL. Interesting about the Mermaid Fest Veto comp, okay? Very interesting strategies. And I'm sure I think they talk about this a little bit in the episode, but I think it's really interesting when you look at how Michael was playing that game as opposed to Pooch. Now, Pooch was going up and down that lane super fast, super fast. Faster than Michael even. The problem there was all the beads that he had in his lane. He should have kept that lane clean so there'd be less friction. He just was kind of like going so fast and kind of just like, and just like not really aiming and just like going like this with his head with the balls. And he had such a higher probability, like a chance in terms of number of balls that he was, number of shots he was taking. But he had all that friction of those beads on his lane because he was kind of flailing about and it was going super fast. If he could have just took his time and aimed a little bit, he might have won that veto. And that could have been bad news for me. Both bad news for me and Taylor if that would have happened. So yeah, it's just interesting to see his physicality really came in handy in that comp. But it was just kind of, and I'm sure he recognizes this too, is that friction of those beads. Really the winning strategy there was to make sure things are clean and clear and to really take your time. You work so hard, wiggling your way up and down that lane. You work so hard to get that ball. Why just flail about and just you really make sure you're aiming and that you can get, and that ultimately is what helped Taylor do so well in that comp and then Michael win that comp. Here's a really awesome example of sharing information when it makes sense and keeping that information to yourself. And I love that somebody said it would have been bad news for Joseph. That's exactly what I'm about to talk about. So you guys know too that, my name was being thrown around. I think Indy's name was being thrown around. Joseph's name was being thrown around. And what's so funny is I was still enough in girls to hear some conversations. They didn't trust me, but they still, I heard some conversations, right? And I heard that Amira and some others were throwing around Joseph's name because Joseph, I just love the way he played the game in general, but also at the beginning, like just looking at this from I'm trying to be unbiased perspective, although it's hard. I love the way he played the game because he was always talking about just how he just wants to develop friendships and how even if it means him going out early, it's okay. He is here because he's helping like charity. Like he just really, and I don't want to say played the good guy because he is a good guy, but the persona he had within the house was just this kind of, he really diminished how smart he was. At the early days, I remember a lot of the girls making lots of comments, and I'm sure you guys saw them just, about how dumb they thought he was, which we all know is very much not true, especially now that we know his career. And he just really, early on in the game, really played up about how just okay he would be, leaving or doing what he needs to do. And really that's why he befriended people like me, people like Taylor early on when others wouldn't. And that was something that I had in common with him. Like I was friends with Taylor. I was friends with Michael. Michael was friends with Taylor. We kind of all were close. And I heard his name being thrown around primarily by Amira, I think in that point in time, that he was being targeted. And he also heard that Amira was talking about me as well. And so we shared that. That was kind of the beginning of us getting closer. And also he was just a really good friend. I think I mentioned this in my last live when I was just really down and out the week prior, week 1, about backstage. He was just somebody who just gave me the pep talk that I needed. He was just somebody that I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm kind of trying to hold all this in unless I'm upstairs in the have-not room alone. But I just kind of broke down in front of him because I felt comfortable enough to do so. And that's testament to the social game as well. But what was kind of brilliant about him telling me, well, Amira's talking about you. Well, Amira's throwing around your name too, is that we both kept that information to ourselves. We shared it with each other, which is valuable, but we kept it to ourselves for the most part. And I just thought that was so smart because literally you look at that you look at that information that we were able to say, okay, this person's talking about you, Joseph. And then Joseph says, hey, this person's talking about you, Brittany. And sharing that information, but keeping it to yourself, that is the foundation of me and of Michael, being brought into the leftovers. Also the relationship that Michael and I were starting to develop at the time with Kyle. I don't know if it was week 2 at this point, but Kyle was more we noticed he was more introverted as well, which is so funny watching his TikToks now that I'm out of the house. I'm like, he's an extroverted introvert if there ever was one. Because in the house, especially before he started getting super close with Alyssa, he was super introverted. And that was something that I really feel like at the time that I felt like I had in common with him. I remember having a conversation with him early on in the game. And he was like, I feel like personality-wise, you and I, meaning me and him, had similar-ish demeanors, in terms of being introverted or whatnot within the house. And so, and so we kind of started, it wasn't an official alliance, but we kind of called ourselves the Outsiders, which was kind of very funny, very similar name than the Leftovers, right? And I think because some of those relationships were starting to form there, because Joseph and I had this clear channel of communication there, I can see now these kind of pieces sort of coming together that the week 2 here, and especially all the men being so blindsided by, Pooch, leaving at various points in time. Not all the men. Michael knew, Daniel knew. But, the Oasis at the time, really not knowing until later on that he was going to be the target, that week. You can really begin to see the thought process and the relationships that were starting to form on the side that created the foundation of the Leftovers, the idea for the Leftovers. Okay, this is kind of a hot take. The Leftovers wouldn't have happened if Kyle/Monty's ego didn't get so hurt in week 2. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. Maybe not. That's what I wrote while I was watching this. They hated being outside of the power. I do think there's a certain element, right? We're coming back to this. We're coming back to this idea of being a strong female competitor, right? And week 2 was all about that. It was Jasmine won HOH. Amira, was very influential as a strong relationship to her. Was very influential in a lot of her decision making. Girls definitely did not hide, the fact that all the girls were working together in that week. All the girls were hanging out on the bed, all time. And the guys didn't know of the true plan until later on. And that really spooked them. And you know what? Rightfully so. If I was in their position and I didn't know what was going on in the house week 2, I'd be spooked as well. And so I think it's just funny that, being outside of that power. And what's funny with Joseph is I knew pretty much immediately that Pooch was going to be the target this week. And so I didn't want to jeopardize my relationship with Joseph because I felt like he was close with Pooch, and he was probably the person that was closest to Pooch that I was closest to. And so I wanted to still maintain that open, clear channel of communication with him, but I didn't want to tell him that Pooch was the real target as early as I knew that was the fact. You know what I mean? And so that was really a fine line to kind of dance around, that I was like, I don't want to stop this trust that I'm building with Joseph, this relationship that I'm building with Joseph in the game. I don't want to jeopardize it. But I also, what I did, and I don't know if it was effective or not, but what I did was tell him hey, things are feeling weird in this house. I feel like things could flip. If I find out anything's flipping, I'll tell you, just like we talked before. And if you find out anything's flipping, you'll tell me, right? Right. Okay, good. And then we check in with each other several times a day. You hearing anything? No, not yet. Are you hearing anything? Not really. Okay, next day. You hear anything? No. Until it got close enough the day or 2 before that I came to Joseph and I'm like, Joseph, I'm hearing some stuff. I heard some stuff a week prior, but, was able to still be, I don't know if I was the first, but at least one of the first people, Oh, really? Joseph told Taryn that you telling him that was a huge thing for him. Okay, great. So maybe I was the first one that told him that it was going to flip on Pooch. But the timing of that was so intentional and specific that it was like, how do I not ruin this relationship with Joseph? But I also can't tell him with a week's notice. Because if he had a week's notice, Oasis is going to find out, things are going to flip, things could be in jeopardy. So I thought that was... the timing of that, I remember being really like, ooh, and it ended up working out. I think I was able to tell him and be one of the first people, if not the first person to tell him, about that, and build that trust because it ended up happening and he heard it from me and he knew that I was on the outside, which helped with the formation of the leftovers, but not tell him too soon where they could do anything about it because I definitely wanted it to go. I wanted Pooch out of that house. I mean, what kind of amazing, beautiful karma is that to be picked and go through the stress of backstage and then have the backstage boss leave the very next week. Ooh. And it is so funny. I didn't realize, I guess I'm still thinking, I'm a fan of Big Brother, right? I'm still thinking like back in the early, like old Big Brother days where goodbye messages were vindictive and, they just, they slayed. They didn't play any of my goodbye messages, pre-jury goodbye messages, during the episode, probably because they were too mean, but they're played sometimes, in Julie's extended interview. And, I really gave it to Pooch. Sorry, Pooch. I was very happy that he was leaving, because he was targeting me and he really made my first couple weeks in this house, not too pleasant. So not as a person, he's an awesome person. He's hilarious. And I feel like we had a lot in common. We had a lot of really great, deep, funny conversations as well as personal conversations. But as game wise, I just felt like I did give him a golden ticket of strategy for his game to know who he was trusting is not somebody he should trust in the game and that he should be aware of that. I gave him that and then he ran and blabbed it. And I knew he was going to do that, but what else choice did I have in backstage? I had to do something. The only thing that I could possibly offer him. I can't offer him flirting. I can't offer him good looks compared to Paloma and Alyssa. I can offer him strategy. And I thought, well, that's a way I could differentiate myself because I didn't think Paloma and Alyssa were probably having the kind of game conversations that I was trying to form with him. Considering he didn't use it to his advantage, that's why he got out week 2, that's his downfall of his game. But what can you do? I write down, okay, here's another note. Turner evicts his final 2. Not the last time he'll do that. We see that happen multiple times in this season. Here's something that's just kind of funny. Watching this week 2 vote, right? So we didn't vote. Week 1 because of everything that happened, with Paloma backstage. But it's so cute to see us be so nervous voting for the first time. I'll just tell you, voting for the first time, that is just, it's a surreal experience. The first time you're in the DR is surreal. The first time you're in the house is real. The first time you wake up and you're in the Big Brother house, I don't know if you guys have ever had this experience where you go to bed and you wake up and you kind of forgot about this really exciting thing that's happening. Oh, it's Christmas morning, or it's my birthday, or something really good's happening, or something really bad that's happening. That would happen in the Big Brother house. I'd wake up and for a split second, I'd forget I'm on Big Brother. This is amazing. How is this happening? So yeah, it's just kind of crazy. Oh, he literally offered to go up as a pawn even after you gave him info like that. What? Yeah. I hadn't even thought, he knew people were targeting him. He knew. I told him. Yet he offered to be a pawn. Guys, sometimes it just doesn't make sense. So yeah. Anyways, it's very cute to watch back how nervous we are voting for the first time. And that was really fun. Wow. So you live feeders know this because you watch. But what's so crazy, and I get why they don't show this in the episodes because it would kind of give away who's leaving, but it is just wild, to quote Jasmine, it is wild to know that they don't show in the episodes what it means to pooch yourself. They don't show anything that we reference when we say, oh, somebody pooches themselves in this game. They don't show what that looks like in the episodes. And why they don't do this is because it is Pooch running around. Once he gets wind that he might be in jeopardy, it is him the last like kind of 2 days before, or maybe day and a half, 2 days-ish. His own paranoia got him even before we started to leak it. It is him running around the house and just having as many game conversations as one human could potentially ever have. And it's just so funny that you don't see that in the episode. That literally, if you've heard the term pooch yourself, that literally means go crazy once you find out you're in trouble. That would be pooching yourself, I guess. And I will say it was just a madhouse. You know, we talk about BB23, Frenchie's Funhouse. You know, pooching yourself is like, we literally, like, I remember walking around the house like the morning of, Thursday morning of this vote. And you just are literally, you're trying in your mind to figure out where is Pooch so that I can be somewhere else. Because he literally will be like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? Hey, let's go in the storage room. I need to talk to you. I think he literally pulled me aside to have game conversations about this new alliance of me, Daniel, Turner, Pooch, and Michael. I don't know, just this random ass alliance. He literally pulled me aside maybe like 4 times that day, and then another 2 or 3 times the day before. And he was doing this with everybody. I don't know how this dude found enough time to meet one-on-one with so many people. Like that, it was just to the point that you'd look at somebody and be like, you go in a room and you'd be like, you'd scan and be like, is Pooch here? Okay, he's not. All right, let's hang out in here until we hear his voice coming. Then we're like, let's go someplace else. Like, you just were trying to steer clear because it was just so overwhelming. There was nothing you could do. You know, yeah. And you're right. Joseph told him to stop and he didn't then he turned on Joseph after that, which Joseph was like only trying to help him and give him some advice. Whenever he heard actually real advice, you know, it's just kind of funny. So, anyways, that's what it officially means to pooch yourself. And I'm so sorry if you didn't watch the live feeds that you don't truly know the temperature of what that's like, what it means to pooch yourself. Yeah. So it's funny. Yeah. So some people think it's volunteering to put yourself on the block. My understanding of what it meant to pooch yourself and how we used it in context doesn't necessarily, I mean, I guess that's a part of it, right? But honestly, I think it's more about the, you know, to use a term people love to use on me, it is the spiraling of the recognizing you're in trouble and then just overplaying and panicking. It's panicking when you realize you're in trouble, which, hey, let me be the first to say, not pooching yourself is incredibly difficult. I could not imagine. I would have pooched myself if I was in his position week 2 and I knew that I was going, and you just think, surely I can talk to somebody about it, you know? That's incredibly hard. You don't want to watch this opportunity slip through your fingers. And so please, when I say this and I laugh about it, it is not anything against Pooch. I would have done the exact same thing. I think anybody would have done the exact same thing. It's very difficult. I think he just was you also got to take into account his personality. He was very jovial, very funny, loved to talk. And so his way of approaching trying to stay in the house was, I need to talk to everyone 6 times. Whereas maybe somebody else's approach, if they were in a similar situation, might have approached it differently. But no, I would, and you know what, this would be a great question. Maybe I'd love to talk to Michael about this on Sunday when he joins the live. This is a great question because my definition and what I always thought it meant to pooch yourself is to go crazy right before, when you're on the block, to literally go so crazy that people are like, I can't, you know, we can't live like this. You need to go. So, you know, remaining calm. And that's why, who's the anti-poocher? Taylor did the anti-pooching yourself. Whenever she was on the block, she would lay low. She'd go hang out in the hammock. She'd hang in her bed all day. She'd really kind of ostracize herself, in addition to the ostracization that was happening by other girls in the house. But she would seclude herself and lay low. That you're like, where's Taylor? I haven't seen her all day. That is the opposite of pooching yourself. Okay. And it's funny because I don't think you see any of that on the episodes. Oh, and I'm sorry. And I think it also, let's not negate volunteering to be on the block. That is a part of the definition as well. Not asking to be on the block, running around the house like crazy, cornering people. Yeah, that was it's the cornering. It's the, oh my gosh, I need to eat. So I'm going to go into the storage room and grab some bread, but oh my God, I can't be in the storage room alone because Pooch will follow me in. And then I have to have this 20-minute conversation about why he should stay when I've already had that 20-minute conversation 2 hours ago with him. Like, please do, like, I just remember grabbing Michael and being like, will you come into the storage room with me? I don't want to be caught alone. That's what pooching yourself is. So if you ever find yourself playing Big Brother in the future, please don't do that. It doesn't work. That strategy does not work. Yeah, someone does need to make a BB term dictionary, don't they? Yeah, so it's funny. All right, well, that is week 2, and I know I've already gone for an hour, so I told myself I wanted to keep this to an hour. I can't believe I can talk about each week for an hour. And let me tell you, week 3, oh my God, look at my notes for week 3. I have so many notes. Obviously, week 3 is a very important one, and maybe I'll save week 3 for Sunday and talk about week 3 with Michael. That'd be really fun, because Michael's going to join me on Sunday at 6 p.m., so I'll talk about it on Instagram Live. I'll set a reminder. We'll do one that I'll like schedule the live so you can click remind me and then you'll get a notification when it comes on. And it will just be me and Michael doing this, talking. And maybe we'll talk about week 3. I'd love that. Yeah, maybe week 3 needs to be done in parts. We'll see how long that conversation is. I also want to just like, I don't know. Does it make sense to talk about week 3 with Michael? 6 p.m. Central. So that will be 7 p.m. Eastern. You know what? I did not spiral on this recap. You know what I do? I talk a lot. And guess what? We're here to talk. So if you don't want to talk, you can just leave. People, calm down. We're having fun. Okay. 6 p.m. Central. Why is Michael so inactive? I don't know. Some people like social media more than others. I told him the people want you. That's what I texted him yesterday. I texted him, the people want you. And so that's why we're doing this live, because I tend to, be more active on social media. And so I will do the dirty work for him. But I'm going to do one of those little things where you can click remind me. And I don't know. What do you guys think? Should we talk about week 3 together, or should we maybe we should just put a pin in the recaps and just answer questions, because I feel like you guys, it'd be fun to answer the same question and talk about things that you guys have. Maybe we do that. I don't know. Let me know. You can DM me or just answer here. But that'll be really fun because I can't wait to geek out with him and talk game. Him and I miss talking game. So, okay. So how about this? I'll answer 3 questions from the little question box that you guys, you said that's why you balance each other out. We do. Even post BB life. I feel like I'm like, Michael, you need to get on social media. People are asking for you. Come join me. He's like, okay, Britt. Let's just do a Q&A. Oh, hi, my mom joined. Hi, Mama. Sorry, I'm just about to end. I'm answering 3 questions, so you kind of missed most of it. But, we'll do more just questions with me and Michael. And then we'll both answer it and we'll talk about it. And that'll be fun. Okay, but for right now, I will answer 3 questions and then we'll get off of here because I've been on here too long. Oh, hi. Okay. Hi, baby. My mom calls me baby. First question is, still wish you did that candy presentation to Monty as your final pitch. You had nothing to lose. So this was the week before I left. You know what? I understand that. And boy, I'm sure if you watch the live feeds, you saw that I tried. I thought through this very, very hard. But here is the reason why. Let me just kind of fill in. Let me take a step back. Sorry. Sometimes my brain moves faster than my mouth and then it doesn't make sense. I'm sure you guys know this already. What I did with the candy. My thought was, okay, I have to convince Monty that it makes more sense to keep me. What is my biggest argument against him? My biggest argument of why he should keep me over Turner, because it almost is like you're in high school debate, right? They hand you a prompt and you're like, argue this position. That's the position I was in. Did I necessarily think it made the most sense to keep me over Turner? There were some reasons why I didn't think it made sense, i.e. Turner would bring Monty to final two, so would Taylor. So I knew I had no argument against that, so I couldn't argue that position. But the position I could argue of were the reasons why he should keep me. The reasons why he should keep me would be that Turner won so many more competitions than him. And that I really tried to paint Turner as a big threat and as somebody who had the most similar game to Monty. And that if Monty wanted to differentiate his game, i.e. starting the leftovers, i.e. taking out Michael, some of these big milestone moments in the game, if he wanted to differentiate himself, he needed to take out Turner. And one of the big ways too, and I tried to appeal to Monty. Monty and I always had in common that we love talking about mindset stuff and manifestation and positivity. And I really tried to appeal to Monty's mindset that, dude, don't you want to bet on yourself? Here's what you can do. You can bet on other people to take you to final two and you can get second. Like what happened? Or bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. Get rid of Turner, who would be your stiffest competition in terms of who would beat you. And then you win that final three-part HOH. You decide who you bring and you win. What's funny is I think he still would have brought Taylor and he still would have lost. But if he would have brought me, he would have won. Or if he would have brought Turner, even now we know, he would have won. So I thought, how can I do this? He's a very logical guy. Monty's very logical. How can I appeal to his analytical mind, his analytical thinking? And I thought graphs. We don't have any sort of writing apparatus or utensils in the house, right? We have M&Ms. And so what I did is I went through every single competition and I assigned each person an M&M. Turner had a color, Monty had a color, I had a color, Taylor had a color. And based on if the person won that comp or if they just performed better than the other people, I said who won out of us four. So maybe Monty and Turner didn't win because Michael won that comp. But who would have got second? Who would have got third? You know, and these are the kind of things you need to study if you're playing Big Brother. You need to know the order that people got out in competition. You need to remember how people performed, everyone in that, not just who won. And so I went through each comp and I said, okay, in this, instance, Monty did better than me and Taylor. In this instance, Taylor did better than me and Monty. In this instance, I won, so I did better than Monty and Taylor. I went through and I created these graphs so that you could visually see who performed better. And oh my gosh, guys, it was just so overwhelming. I wish I could remember all the stats. But I think I mentioned some of those stats in my eviction plea in my final speech. The stats were something like Monty beat me in 11 out of the 13 comps that we played together. And then, but out of the 9 competitions he was up against Turner, he only only won in 4. So it was like less than half percentage chance. So it basically went to like a, 90 something-ish percentage chance if he went up against me to a 48-ish percentage chance if he went up, or 48% chance. I don't know the math. If he went up against Turner. And so my argument through the graphs was to try to say, hey, bet on yourself, Mr. Positivity. Believe in yourself. You win. You don't win any extra money for making this harder on yourself. I remember saying that in my speech. And you win, you get first. Yes, sure. I'm not going to take you to final 2. And if I'm here, Taylor might not take you. But if you win, you get to decide who you take and you get first. Again, did I believe all of this? No, but this was the position. This was the only position I could argue for. Because if I would have turned to Monty and say, I'll take you to final 2, he would not have believed me. And so I would have for sure been evicted, for sure. I had to try to grasp at whatever I could. So the question was, I made these, they were in the bubble room. They laid there for like a couple days because no one was ever going into the bubble room. I made all these graphs, right? That compared, you could visually see Turner versus me. I created these graphs. I was going to show them to Monty. I was really excited about this because I thought this would appeal to his logical thinking. I talked to Taylor and Taylor's like, Brittany, one of Monty's biggest concerns is that you are going to outperform him on the mental aspects of these final three HOH comps. If you show him, and that's what she told me. And then I thought, oh no, I'm in a catch-22 here. Because if I show him the M&M graphs, if I show him this, that proves his point right. That he's going to be literally like, this girl remembers the competitions in order, and not only who won, but who out of all of everybody playing did well versus not. I knew this stuff like the back of my hand, that, and that's just going to prove his point that he does not want to compete against me, and that I would be shooting myself in the foot if I showed this to him. I'd be proving his point right. So I was like, great, here I made all these graphs, I spent hours on these things. I can't even show it to him. And it would just prove the point right. And oh my gosh, ooh, threatening smart woman, yikes, can't keep her around, and I couldn't do that. So yeah, that was the reason why I didn't show that. Then for a hot second, we thought, well, Taylor, you could show him the graph. So I was going to train, Taylor was totally game for this too, which was so sweet. I was going to train Taylor in like how to read the graphs and to know the graphs. And that was going to be us studying together, was going to look at these graphs, and she would use the graphs with Monty. But then we started talking even more so, and we're like, okay, this is really pushing super hard. I mean, literally Taylor presenting my graphs to Monty would really show that Taylor wants me here. And, it just got to the point where it actually, and this was our last ditch attempt. And I think Taylor said that she had a conversation with Monty about it. But our last ditch attempt was, let's just try reverse psychology with Monty. He doesn't want to listen to me. He doesn't want to listen to you. How about, I told Taylor, I was like, tell Monty it's my HOH, and I changed my mind. I want Brittany out of here. And because it's my HOH and I changed my mind, you should keep Turner. And I knew that would piss off Monty, that if she was going on like a fake power trip, and that would piss him off, that maybe, just maybe, he'd be like, I don't want you telling me what to do, and he would keep me instead. So that was the last. We went from M&M graphs to use Monty psychology against him and try to convince him that you wanted Turner instead. And of course, you all know this. Nothing would have worked. His mind was made up 2 weeks earlier. Nothing was going to work. And I knew that too. But if you're in the Big Brother house, you're just like, what? Am I just going to sit here and curl up and nap for 4 days straight, No. So you got to do something. You have nothing to lose at that point in time. But if you overplay, then you do lose. So there's a fine line. There's a fine balance of overplaying versus not, And so that's ultimately kind of, the situation you find yourself in those instances. So, that was that. Sorry, that was a very long-winded way, but, and I'm sure I'll talk more about that when we get to that week of these Instagram lives, but, yeah. So guys, these comments go so fast. I'm just going to answer 2 more questions. These comments go so fast though, that if you leave the question in the comments, I don't see it. So go to the little question box and add it there if you have a question, so that I'll see it, and then upvote other people's questions. Upvote other people's questions, and then so I can answer the ones that most people want to hear. Julie and all Big Brother fans love when someone fights till the end like you did. Yeah, I was just like, I'm here. And I just couldn't, I know I talked about this the last live. I just could not give up. Because it wasn't even that I was sad that I was being evicted. It was more that I just promised my husband that I'd come home with this money so that we could start our family. I promised him. And did my husband understand? Yes. Talking to Steven, my husband, he said the moment I got evicted, or the moment I got nominated and I lost that veto, he actually kind of breathed a sigh of relief. He was like, okay, it's done. He knew, because he was a live feeder. He knew that there was nothing I could say or do that would convince Monty otherwise. And so he just, we knew now. And of course, does my husband hold it against me that I got 4th and not 1st? Not at all. But it was me just knowing like, okay, if I'm going to leave you for 3 months, if I'm going to lie and play this game and, put myself under this emotional duress for this long and exhaust myself and put myself through the ringer that is Big Brother, I made a promise to him. And something about making so many promises that you can't keep in the Big Brother house and having to lie and manipulate and do all those things that make this game so interesting. Something about having a promise that you would never break for anything or anyone. Oh, I'm going to get upset. It means so much to me to know in a house and 3 months worth of promises that nothing's ever solid and it's just sand in your fingers, right? To know that I had this one promise to somebody at home that I would not break for anything, nothing. That's why I fought so hard to the end, because I'm not going to break that promise. I'm not going to break that promise to him. And anytime I found myself getting upset that last week, it still makes me emotional to think about, because I just couldn't let go of the idea that if I stop, I'm breaking that promise. And I just would never do that. So yeah. Still very fresh. Okay, let's see here. Let's answer just 2 more. Okay, this is a great question. By Mikey 3701. What was your perception about what was happening to Taylor at the time? Did you feel like a bystander, or did you not see a lot of what was happening? Or sorry, the question kind of cuts off. Both. I'm recognizing that there is a lot that I did not see. That even though, and I talked about this in my last live a little bit, but even though Taylor and I, it was somewhat of a strategy for us to hide that we're friends, especially week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, pretty much all the way up into her HOH, that was week 7, right? Was it? You know, it's funny. I remembered the weeks and who won by this tactic, which if you ever go on Big Brother, it's a good tactic to use. It's called the Memory Palace. It's the same strategy that memorization champs use. Oh, that's a good question. Am I following Taryn on Instagram? Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully my husband would have followed him. Maybe I did. I might not be getting his DMs. Yeah, so it's the same strategy that memorization champions use, where you walk through a place that you're familiar with. In my case, it's my house. I walk through my house and you can see certain things that help you remember things. And so that's how I would memorize the days. Of course, I didn't memorize them good enough. Well, here's the thing. My memorization was on point. I just memorized the wrong material. I memorized the wrong day. That's why I lost the final 3 HOH, which I'll talk about that when we get to that week. But if I would have gotten day 3 instead of day 4, I would have finished that competition. I even had somebody in production verify this for me. I would have finished that competition in 1/4 of the time it took Monty. Like they edit it to make it look like it's like neck and neck, right? No, it literally, I had time on that final 3 veto. I had enough time to make 30 trips back and forth. 30 trips back and forth of changing the final total because I thought that my math was wrong. And can you guys hear me? Somebody's saying they can't hear. I think you can hear me. I had enough time to make 30 back and forth trips. So that's 60 runs because I thought my math was wrong because I was so confident in my answers. That's how much, and it was just that last one that was there. If I would have studied day 4 instead of day 3, that I would have won that one before I think most people would have gotten their days up on the board. That's how much the studying helped. So anyways, I picture myself walking through the house, and my foyer was week 1, my office is week 2, the eating room is week 3, this room is this. I can see it in my mind. So I'm thinking, okay, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6. Yeah, week 6 was Taylor's HOH. So from weeks 3 to 6, for 3 weeks there, that's almost a month, Taylor and I purposely tried to keep our distance because we knew it didn't help either of our games. It put a bigger target on both of our backs. If the other girls who did not like Taylor and mostly didn't like me knew we were friends. So in terms of feeling like a bystander, or did I know a lot of what was happening, I just want to put that out there, that there was a period of time there, about 3 weeks, where Taylor and I purposely were not trying to spend as much time together, and we would secretly hang out, which is so sad. Secretly hang out because we both recognize that that in order to make inroads with the other girls, if they saw us two together and being close, that it would be easier for them to both dislike both of us. It still kind of happened anyways, but that was the thought process at the time. That being said, I think also at a certain point in time, we just kind of got sick of it. We're just like, you know what? Fuck this. We're friends. We're going to hang. We're going to talk. We're not going to hide this anymore. This is silly. I think Taylor's relationships improved with a lot of people as time went on as well, of the girls that were remaining. And so I will say that even though we thought we were hiding it, I think people knew more so. Like, I remember there being this instance where whose HOH was it? Oh, it must have been Michael's week 5 HOH. He had just won HOH. And so Michael and I went and celebrated in the car room, and then Taylor joined us and we all celebrated, us three together, in the car room. And I remember, you would try to leave rooms kind of one at a time. So maybe people wouldn't see, a whole group of people leaving one room at the same time. That's the thought process, right? And so I remember Michael leaves and Taylor and I kind of hang back and we talk a little bit, and then Taylor leaves. And then I kind of hang back alone, just kind of, letting people pass by, if they didn't know I was in that room, they wouldn't know. And then I leave, and Indy's like waiting for me outside this room. She's just standing there. And she's like, I know you're friends with her. Be careful how much you're friends with her, because she's going to win this game. If we let her stay, she's going to win this game. You're friends with her, and I'm not saying anything about Indy. Don't blow up. This was an actual game conversation that happened, and I'm talking just purely from a game perspective. And she was right. Indy was right. And Taylor won the game. But I just remember being like, oh my gosh, here we are trying to leave this room at different times, and people are literally waiting on the outside, waiting and to call me out, to be like, you're friends with Taylor, to literally call me out about being friends with Taylor, at that instance. And I guess that is a long way of saying that even though Taylor and I tried as much as we could to hide that we were friends, other people in the house still knew. And that if the comments, and now I haven't gone down the rabbit hole, nor do I intend to go down the rabbit hole, of the comments that was said about Taylor, a lot of people did not share them with me because they knew that we were friends. Even if we tried to hide it, they knew we were friends. And so a lot of that bullying that happened, that I'm finding out about, I was not in the room for, except for the big blow up with Daniel, which is week 3. And we'll talk about that the next Instagram Live. I was there for that, and I have apologized to Taylor for that. And that will be my single biggest regret in this game, in the house, is that here I was in this room knowing that Daniel was mad, but I just went into that fright, the fight or flight, right? The fight, flight, or freeze mode, right? I don't want to say dangerous, because was I actually thinking oh, Daniel's going to hurt somebody? No. But it was this element of tension, of heightened tension, and just a general sense of freezing that kind of happens when you're just you don't know what to think. You don't know what's happening. You don't know what's real. You freeze up. And I would like to think in the real world that I wouldn't freeze up like that. I mean, it's scary. It's scary to be in a situation been like this. I've never been in a situation like that before. And you just wish, that's my biggest regret, that I just could have in that moment said, hey, Daniel, let's cool it. We don't need to be talking to her like that. What's going on? Let's just separate. Let's cool it. But we all just kind of froze. And I mean, I think everybody who was there, and most of the house was there, everybody kind of had that moment. So to answer your question, perception of what was happening to Taylor at the time, I did feel like a bystander a lot of the time, or not a lot of the times, but specifically in that Daniel confrontation, I felt like a bystander and wish that I could rewind time and not be a bystander in that instance. But I will say all the other bullying, I didn't really hear. The extent that I knew was that we started girls, but they didn't want Taylor in girls. And it's okay, why would you not want a girl in girls? That should have been the red flag, right? That we didn't want, that to happen. So, yeah, that was pretty much it. I'm finding out now that it was much worse, much worse than that. But I was not in the room for those conversations. So, Yeah, I think everyone was just shocked at first. Then people went to Taylor to help and to Daniel to stop it. Yeah, it was a lot of shock. I mean, there were definitely a lot of conversations once it was over, consoling Taylor, talking to Daniel, all that stuff. But in the moment, it was a lot of shock. So yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's do just one more question. Oh my God, I said this was gonna be an hour. Now it's an hour and a half, but people keep coming and going, and so I keep going. Let's see. Let's see. If it was Alyssa and Taylor in the final 3 and you won the final HOH, who would you have taken? Oh my gosh, that is such a hard question, because it's so easy to sit here in hindsight and to know how much support and to know how strong Taylor's game was. That's really, really difficult. And you know what? I'm not even going to answer it. And that's such a cop out. Don't you guys hate me? Oh, I'm not even answering it. That's awful. Here's what my thought process would be around it, which I hopefully is good enough. There's pros and cons, right? Taylor had a much better game, obviously. She played an amazing social game. She had a much better story. She's won more comps. Those were all things that I think the jury would really respect. Obviously, that's how this played out, right? She won against Monty, who had a much better game than me. Alyssa hadn't won as many comps, but she had a lot of friends in jury. Especially if you're going to compare me versus Alyssa. I don't, if it was like me versus Turner, maybe, and I'm not speaking for anybody, but maybe I would have gotten some of the women's votes. It's interesting. You think through, you'd kind of think through all this, and we would use M&Ms to try to think through all these votes too. But if it was me versus Alyssa, then we're both women. So the girls would have to pick between the two girls. I think they're going to pick the girl that was like them, who was not in the leftovers, who managed to survive the leftovers. And that is a really impressive thing. That would be a very impressive thing for Alyssa to have survived, outlasted the majority of the leftovers. And I think, and I don't know who Indy and Jasmine namely would have voted for, but I think they probably would have voted for Alyssa. I think Kyle would have voted for Alyssa. Terrence would have voted for Alyssa. I mean, gosh, that's 4 votes right there. Like, who would here's what it ultimately comes down to. I don't think I could have won against, I would have had Michael's vote. I probably would have had Taylor's vote. I think I would have had Monty's vote. Turner would have voted for Alyssa. Yeah, so that's the thing too. That's why we always said that, sure, Alyssa hadn't won any competitions, but she had a lot of votes in jury. And I think honestly it would have, and it's so funny because Michael said this, he was like, I'm prepared. He's a lawyer. He's like, I was prepared to fight for you, Brittany, at that jury roundtable. If you were final 3, I was going to fight for you, because he knew a lot of those things a lot of parts of my game and my strategy that I purposely kept under wraps. He was going to be able to share that with the rest of the jury that might have influenced their decision. But yeah, it's just, I think as we're looking at this, I don't know if I could have won against either of them. And so if I would have come to that conclusion, I didn't do this thought because this did not happen. This scenario did not happen. We were talking purely in hypotheticals here. If I would have thought through this, I probably would have come to the conclusion that I wasn't going to win. So who would I have brought? It's hard. Then you got to think, okay, well, who do you feel close? Like, I'm friends with both Alyssa and Taylor, but I've been working with Taylor throughout the game. We were both in leftovers together. We're both in our final 3 with me and Michael together. Her and I had even had multiple final 2s together. So there is some element, and I know this goes against winning, but there is some element of loyalty, right? When you're closely aligned with people and you've been working the whole game together, there is an element of loyalty too. So I wouldn't negate that, even though you're trying to make the decision that's going to help you win. And that's what I ultimately come back to. And again, this is all hypotheticals. So, I I think it's too difficult to really say. But I think if I came to the conclusion that there was no way I was going to win against Taylor or Alyssa, then I would have gone with the more loyal option, because what do you have to lose? You get second to either. I would have gone with the option of the person I'd been working with the most throughout the game, which would have been Taylor. Now, oh my gosh, before you go up in an uproar and you're like, you flipped the vote on her and you kept Alyssa. We're talking about this being a final three situation where I am the one that's in power choosing who sits next to me. Precisely the reason all the things that I said that were pros for Taylor winning were precisely the reasons why I thought, you know what? I need to flip this vote because I'm going to have a better shot of winning to make to final three if I'm not competing against Taylor, if I'm competing against Alyssa versus Taylor. We'll talk about that when we get to that week's recap, but that is the reasoning that went behind that. That's the reasoning that went behind that. It was not an emotional decision, although there were always, like anything, like any human experiences, emotional components. It was a 95%, strategic decision on my part if it would have gone through. I didn't think the plan was even really going to go through, but I also didn't know I also knew there was no repercussions for it because I knew Taylor would still keep me around even if she distrusts and thought I flipped the vote. So there was no downfall. It either worked or it didn't. It wasn't going to hurt me any in the long run. So, and it kept things entertaining. That would have been a super boring week of feeds. Although I will 100% cross my heart, hope to die, say that was not anything that influenced my decision. I'm sorry, guys. I did not ever do anything meaning for it to be entertaining in any sort of way. I was just trying to play the game. So that is a very interesting question. I don't ultimately know what I would do. Here's the thing. I probably wouldn't have gotten myself in a situation where I'd be a final three with both those girls. The only person remaining in a final five that I'd even have a hope of winning against would be Turner. And that would be because he pissed off enough people that maybe they'd vote for me, and Michael would have to do a good enough job of explaining my strategy that they didn't see, the elements of my strategy that they didn't see. He would have to do that, and then maybe it'd be pretty close and maybe I'd win. But then again, you guys remember, and I talked about this in my last live, I made a lot of game decisions that helped supported me and Michael that I knew would secure me to get, that would help me get to final two more, but what I knew was hurting my chances of winning. And that's kind of a decision you just have to make. I came into the house with a very specific goal in mind, which was a certain dollar amount so that me and my husband could start our family and we could explore fertility options or adoption or whatever that might be. And so that's why I came into the house, and you can like it or not, but that was my MO. And, so that's where I am. This has gotten entirely too long though, and I probably should. I do have a full, day of, I have more hypnotherapy sessions this afternoon, and I have that podcast interview like I mentioned, and I'm actually going to go have fun tonight. So, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I'll definitely, we'll do this again. So let's look at the calendar. So I've been doing these like every other day. So maybe I'll do the next one on Friday. And we'll talk week 3. And then on Sunday, I'll have Michael and we'll just answer questions, because I'm sure there'd be a lot of things that it would be fun to hear both of our perspectives on and talk about. So, all right. Thank you guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.